Today on Lightning Bugs.
I went into the competition literally thinking, I'm taking the easy way out. I'm doing the thing that I never wanted to do because I come from the, rock world where it's like you cut your teeth, you get on work tour, you don't shower for a week. It's just what you do. Yeah. And so this felt like selling out. And then I got there and I was like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, what was I even thinking that this was the easy way out? You're every week on national television. You might trip. You might forget your lyrics. You might embarrass yourself and crack. You might lose your voice from the nerves.
And you're tired.
But I was like, I got to get through at least a couple of rounds, get some exposure, and then go from there. I didn't actually think I had the best voice. I know I didn't, but I told my story and I think people related, and I used every opportunity I could to be creative, taking songs and messing with them and making them my own and coming up with cool arrangements and stuff, which I was so grateful they let me do that. But I really tried to show my artistry while, covering other artists' songs as much as I possibly could.
Hi, if you're enjoying listening to Lightning Bugs, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps a lot. Okay, kids. We're back with another episode of Lightning Bugs. My guest today is singer and songwriter Cassadee Pope. In 2008, Cassadee formed the punk pop band Hey Monday, and after an album and 2 EPs, they parted ways. They were pissed. Cassadee went on to win the 3rd season of NBC's The Voice. Her debut solo album, Frame by Frame, was released in 2013, and she got a Grammy nomination for Best Country Duo Group Performance, Think of You with Chris Young. Cassadee released her 4th and latest album, Thrive, earlier this year. Without further ado, Cassadee Pope.
Hey, thanks for having me.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, well, this is a talk about creativity, and sometimes it's hard to actually get in there and figure out why and how you do something.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking at your unique career and what occurs to, well, first of all, let me just ask you about making Thrive, because that's just come out.
Yeah.
Everyone I've talked to over the, artists that have made stuff over the lockdown period, it was just such a bizarre time to be making music. Where did you start? Like, what was where was the first kernel of, assume you're locked in a house or an apartment like everyone else.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm going to make a thing. What's the first thing you thought?
Well, I was convinced I couldn't. There was something really creatively stifling about just like the jolt of all of a sudden being home 24/7, not touring, not getting in the studio even. So I resisted writing on Zoom for about 3 weeks. And when I found out that we were going to be in this for a while, it was really just a conversation between my publisher and I of like, look, everybody's trying it. Just try it. If it doesn't work for you, we'll figure something out. And I was like, oh.
Everyone's making a lockdown album. Let's do this.
Yeah, no pressure, no pressure. And I got to the point where I did land on a direction for where I wanted to head with the next project. And I was like, I don't know if I can accomplish this through Zoom, but I'm going to try it. And I did land in the place of like, I want to incorporate my pop punk roots, my country roots, and fuse them together. And let's see where it lands. And to my surprise, Zoom sessions were actually better than in person for me.
Interesting.
Obviously, I can't sing along with somebody playing guitar, or I can't sing along with a loop. I'll like mute myself and I'll sing to myself. But I think I'm very comfortable and I feel safe in my home and I feel open and I feel like it helps me feel creative. Like I write a lot by myself at home. So all of a sudden I'm home writing and it's like, oh shit, this is really comfortable,
Yeah. So well, let me get back up then to your personal process because you're writing at home alone too, but you do a lot of collaborating. So you write with other writers a lot.
Yeah.
And how often do you just do it lonely? You don't write, not often. And that's fine. Like I was trying to say that in a way that wasn't like judgmental. I've always been I don't write with other people that often. I collaborate, but not writing with them because I guess I'm too much of a control freak and I don't play that well with others. And I actually really look up to people who can collaborate. Like my friend Dan Wilson just writes with people. He's one of the most creative people I know. And I broke Dan. We got together to write and I broke him. He couldn't do anything with me.
Oh my God. You changed the streak. I feel like when I write by myself, I write by myself actually a lot to start an idea and then I bring it into a collaboration. That's what I do. But like to start and finish a song is like once every 3-4 months. Because I have a lot of verse and choruses that are just sitting there ready for something. And it takes a lot for me. But I also know like you are exceptionally talented to where I feel like you can do it on your own and it's going to be fucking amazing. And I'm like, I think if I sit down and I'm in the right headspace, it could be like the last song on Thrive is 100% me, just acoustic, one take. And I'm really proud of that song. But it's like, I was confident enough in that to be like, this deserves its own moment. I'm comfortable putting this out. Whereas like most of the time I'm like, it's almost there, but I think I need some other brilliant minds to help me, bring it home, basically.
And I think that's really helpful. Like, that's helpful for someone who makes stuff to hear. You're like my uncle. He's a weird dude. He grew up super poor and was able to become a millionaire, I believe, a couple of times, and then lost it each time because he was good at starting an idea, but he wasn't good at finishing the idea. And I always thought about that as a kid. It's like, wow, people have different gears. And so, and so one of your gears is starting.
Yeah.
The seed of the song. Because a lot of people don't know what to write about.
Well, and I get super distracted and I get like in my head about what I'm saying. And I just, in a session, people, for me, open up these little windows in my brain that I didn't know were even there. And someone says something, even though it's not something that'll end up in the song, it'll spur some other idea for me. Like, oh, maybe not that, but you just reminded me of this other thing. Let's go here. And we're all kind of prompting each other without realizing it, which is really cool.
Do you ever feel like a collaborator has a perspective on what you're actually trying to do that you're not even aware of yet?
Yeah, definitely. And going into this project, having an idea of even sonically or where I wanted to go with things, I went into sessions with people that I knew understood where I wanted to go with it. Like people I was even on tour with when I was in my old band that are now songwriters, producers that were in bands and stuff. So I wrote with these people that had this perception of me as a human from back when I was 18 touring with them in my old band. And now they know my career now. And it was just like the perspective they had was something that I needed to really tap into the thing I wanted to do because they know me from back then. They know me now and they've sort of figured out what they want to hear from me, which is like not as important as what I want to say myself, but it is kind of cool to like hear them be like, actually, I think you should write a song about like your story because you've been through this and that and this and that. And I'm like, who actually wants to hear about that? But then the first song on the record is a song called Same Old Brand New Me that fans really gravitate towards because it's literally just me and what I've done and how colorful my history is and how crazy the journey has been. So yeah, it is cool when people can bring that out in a session.
Do collaborators ever feel like, I'm just asking what it's like because I still don't know. Is ever like a therapy session? Like they're your shrink?
Oh, yes. All the time.
Interesting.
Well,
I never thought of that before. Maybe that's just maybe that's what they are.
Well, yeah, and some people are, you know, you kind of feel it out because I am an open book. I go to therapy a lot. I'm very much an advocate for like just saying how you feel, and if people are uncomfortable, then that says more about them than you. And I've had situations and sessions where I like just want to write about something really tough, like losing someone, and or like my parents' divorce and stuff. That's very here I am. And some people are ready and willing to go into the depths with me, and some people aren't, and I will feel that out. And sometimes it's been like, okay, those ideas are so precious to me, and if I don't feel they're so fully supported in the session, I'll be like, forget it, let's go party mode, let's write something else, because I'm not going to waste a very important message on this session if you guys aren't in it with me, you know.
So then if you know, going back to the beginning of working on Thrive, if why did you bother?
That's a good question. I had a few songs at the beginning of the year that I was like, these are great, I'm going to go in and record these. They were very pop country, very country radio friendly, I thought.
And this was prior to COVID?
Prior to COVID, in like January, February is when I was like kind of scheming and like, okay, I'm going to go in and do these songs. Then when COVID hit, it was like, you know, it kind of made me sit back and think, well, am I just going the direction that I think I should go in, or am I going the direction I want to go in? And I had the luxury of time to sit and think about it, which I didn't feel I had before. I did.
So back up to that distinction about the direction that you thought you should go in versus the direction that you should go in. You see those as at odds.
Oh yeah, because the thing, like I get in my head about what people are going to think, or like what people might want from me. And being in Nashville, playing the country radio game for the past 9 years, being in this town, and really unlearning that the last few years of being independent from a major label I was on, it takes time to get that out of your head and get that out of your body. And so I realized I was actually still doing that. And I was like, oh my God, like these songs are great, but they're not different. They're not unique. And I'm different. I'm unique. I have something to different to offer given my history. And I had a reunion with my old band at the end of 2019 that really kind of got my wheels turning for a minute once the pandemic hit, of like, what if that night felt so good, and we sold out the venue and the fans were so stoked, and my team was like, wow, we've never seen that side of you. That was really special and electric. Yeah. And it got me thinking of like, well, maybe I can do both. Like, I don't know why I have to sit here and contemplate.
Compartmentalize them.
Yeah, because and like playlisting and radio and everything makes you feel like you have to compartmentalize and choose which way to go, because if you are in this murky area, maybe it won't land somewhere fully, and maybe it's not going to actually take off the way you want. And that is a scary thought, but it's also way more fun to just do what you want, you know? So that was how I decided to just go ahead and go with it.
I mean, one thing I didn't want to let stand for too long, I wanted to go back to as well, is your kind words about my talent, because I think what should be pointed out is that if I could sing like you, that would change my process completely. Like when something, we all have different gears, and you're just sitting there as a great voice waiting for something, something's got to feed the beast so that you can sing. That's not really the case for me. It's kind of like, okay, well, this will do, and we get it through that way. And so that made me concentrate on different things. I felt like, I have to dot all I's and cross all T's when it comes to other things, because I wasn't going to win the voice or anything. I mean, I was on a singing competition as a judge, and I was horrified when they would have me sing. Like when I was growing up, there were singing competitions. There was something called Star Search.
Oh,
and in Europe, there was Eurovision.
Yeah.
They existed.
Yeah.
but they were pretty shameful. Like it was like if you did that, you weren't going to do anything else. That was they were going to leave you in the Star Search corner. You weren't going to. That was a fucking uncool. But at some point, and like when I took my gig doing Sing Off, I really had to think about it. It's like, okay, I'm going to do something that is against everything, and I found a lot of really good aesthetic and artistic reasons to do it. Like, and I loved it. The singers were absolutely fantastic. I learned a lot. It was great.
Yeah.
And actually, we were the show that was warming NBC up for The Voice. They were trying to get The Voice together, and we took that slot, and we're kind of warming you guys up so that you could come on and do the real thing.
Well, thank you for that.
Anybody that creates anything has to do it from a space that is inspiring. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, my mother and my daughter have something in common in that my mother won some visual art awards when she was really young. And someone offered her money and she never touched a canvas again.
Huh.
My daughter was offered, she wrote a little EP of songs. It got a lot of attention really quickly. She was offered a really big management record deal thing. She is a farmer.
Wow.
She didn't even answer the call. She didn't want to do it. As soon as it was something that was going to be competitive, and I don't know, because, I mean, we haven't gone to a shrink together. I can't speak for them. When we create something, we're all absolutely different. What inspires us is different, and what throws us off is different. My mother and my daughter are not inspired by competition. I am. I like a carrot in front. I like to go kick ass and win, and I like stuff. Like I like buying stuff. This is a nice microphone right here. I like buying a microphone with my hard-earned money. So I'm a cold, hard capitalist, and I like to win, and I'm not ashamed of that.
Yeah.
My daughter, as soon as she wrote some songs and was offered a pretty big management and record thing with someone huge, famous, and she's now a farmer. She didn't want to do it. She turned it down. My mother was offered, when she was younger, money for her art. She was winning some competitions right out of college, and she never touched the paints or canvas again. She'll only do dry erase.
Wow.
She does it, and then she erases it. That's how much they were both uninspired by competition. But like I look at your career, and mine too, I'm going to put us in the same category, so I don't want this to come off as at all condescending. But you're obviously competitive, right?
Well, it's funny because I've never thought of myself as competitive at all. But now hearing you explain, the carrot and stuff, I was like, actually, yeah, I guess I might be, and not realizing it, because I think of competitive as there being a negative connotation to that, because when I think of competitive, I think of all the kind of like traditional classic cases of like sabotaging somebody to win, or like looking at to the side and being like, oh, they're doing that, I should do something like that but better. And for me, it was like just beating myself on The Voice every week, getting better every week, but there was this goal in mind. So that is a competition.
Kicking everyone else's ass.
Yeah, so that's competitive. But yeah, I guess I've never really like identified as being a competitive person.
Well, I mean, I think I'm just going to guess this because you're a kind person, and you're being competitive doesn't mean that you relish the fact that others went home crying, miserable, sad, losers because of you.
Damn it.
You did. That's not where you were coming from. But the truth is one motherfucker was going to win, and that was going to be you. Yeah.
Well, I went into the competition literally thinking, I'm taking the easy way out. I'm doing the thing that I never wanted to do, because I come from the, rock world where it's like you cut your teeth, you get on work tour, you don't shower for a week. It's just what you do. Yeah. And so this felt like selling out. And then I got there and I was like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, what was I even thinking that this was the easy way out? You're every week on national television. You're, you might trip, you might forget your lyrics, you might embarrass
Mm-hmm.
yourself and crack, you might lose your voice from the nerves, you might, all these things.
And you're tired.
You're tired. I had I was breaking out, and they love close-ups with the fucking HD. And I was just mortified every week of like having acne on television. Just stupid things like that get in your head. And it was definitely, but I was like, I got to get through at least a couple of rounds, get some exposure, and then go from there. I didn't actually think I had the best voice. I know I didn't, but I told my story, and I think people related, and I used every opportunity I could to be creative, taking songs and messing with them and making them my own and coming up with cool arrangements and stuff, which I was so grateful they let me do that. But I really tried to show my artistry while, covering other artists' songs as much as I possibly could.
Was that fun? Do you file that under good times?
Yeah, I think there were like moments I think of where, okay, to put it in a nutshell, I have a hard time watching it now because I know the nerves everybody's feeling, and I get anxious and I start to.
You have a hard time watching other people do it.
Yeah. So it was an amazing time in my life, but I do remember the nerves being borderline debilitating, making me sick. Yeah. Like I got sick most mornings. And it was really hard, but it was also really fun. And there were amazing moments getting to sing with the Killers and Avril Lavigne and Kelly Clarkson and just singing with like the coolest people. And, that was just so crazy. They were throwing me in some like amazing gowns toward the end because I was the only girl finalist. So they were like, all the resources are coming to me. And it was just like kind of a fairy tale. But it was hard.
How much songwriting were you doing in that period?
Zero.
Yeah, I would think so. How did you feel about the athletic? I mean, like you were mentioning, I think, Frame by Frame being a relatively athletic, vocally athletic album.
Yeah.
Did you feel like during that time, athleticism of singing became bigger for you?
Yeah.
Like, had you thought about that before? Like the
a little bit.
Range
a little
stuff.
bit. My voice coach, I took lessons from 4 years old in Florida where I grew up. And she really put a lot of emphasis on big vocal moments. So from a kid, I wasn't wailing at the whole time during a song I was covering, but she loved to give me songs, like the karaoke version of a track where I had a moment to belt. So I did always have that mentality. But it was this album where it was like low choruses or low verses, and then the chorus explodes. And it was almost every single song. It was like that, except for
choosing the moment.
Maybe. Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely new for me.
These kind of things. I mean, if I remember Sing Off, we pretty much kept people to 2.5 minutes. Is that right? Is that roughly what your performances would be?
I think it might have been even shorter. I think we were like 90 seconds.
Oh shit. Okay.
We were really short. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're going to choose a moment, you actually have to craft when the moment happens. It's not like you just go in and go, the whole time. You have to find your, like that, because I would have won with that. You have to find a moment to do that. So do you feel like your songwriting chops came in handy there?
Yeah. And I felt like there, I remember my family and my friends, I told them I was singing Stupid Boy by Keith Urban on one of the episodes, and they were all like, why? You shouldn't do that, because it's not a vocally challenging song. And I was like, yeah, but like I'm going to make it, I'm going to like do something to it. And it ended up being like one of my favorite performances, but it is what you make it, and it's so fun to take, like, I love doing covers during my like headlining sets even. So it was really fun to like, flex that.
Yeah. And look, the judges on that show aren't dummies. I mean, they're looking for musicality, and it's not like as soon as you hit a high, whatever note that makes you win. Like it's not like that.
Right.
So taking it back then, let's get in that headspace of competitiveness and say that you and I are the kind of artists who, at the time, a fairly famous 90s rock person that didn't last for very long. They were big for a moment. And through a couple of friends, I had heard that she referred to me as the guy who could ride the bull. The point being is that she was not willing to jump through all the hoops to continue to do it. Right. But old Foles, he'll just jump through all the hoops and do whatever and go kiss all the ass and do all the extra work to do it. So I always took that as the implication of it. And so let's embrace it then. So let's call us bull riders then. If you apply that thinking to back to making Thrive, and when I ask you why bother, I guess in the back of my mind is I'm like, you want to stay in the biz, you want to take advantage of the moment. Can you think of all of the, like pretend you're in therapy, all the not ugly, but all the less savory reasons that you would want to make an album? Like what, besides just expression, if you don't have anything that you really feel like you can express at that moment, what is the motivation?
I mean, that was my motivation, was expression.
Okay.
Because we were in that time of just stillness and like, what's the point of anything? I mean, I got real, I'm sure everybody got real reflective and like, why do I do any of it? And I might have subconsciously gotten to the point of fed upness of playing the game. And once the game was paused for everybody, I was like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing on this game board? Like, I'm going to go over here. And because it does get in your head and you don't realize you're playing the game for a while. And so once that happened, then I was like, well, what do I really want to say? What do I love doing? And what am I listening to right now? I was listening to like Biffy Clyro and Blink-182 and I'll always go back to like old Shania records and Mutt Lange records. And like, I gravitate towards like walls of guitars and live sounding drums and just super catchy melodies. And I love a good like country storyline and storytelling. So
okay, that's interesting.
I was just like, I'll just do all of it.
Do you feel like the music that the wall of guitars music and loud rock music, do you miss a storyline in those, or do you see those as being a different kind of storyline, or how do you? That's an interesting thing you just said about country storylines, because they are good for that, even when they're simple.
Yeah, and I think that they're like, I can see the beauty in both a country song and a rock song, but I do feel like a lot of rock songs are the ones that I love. I sometimes have to Google what they mean, because I'm like, what are they saying? Right. Well, the vocals aren't really up front like a country song usually has. So I sometimes can't even hear what the singer's saying. But the little things that poke out are influential and really special and amazing. But like, that's what I was excited about making this record, was I'm going to take the things I love about rock songs and country songs and do both in one thing. And because my sensibility songwriting wise is to tell a story and is to be pretty conversational and digestible as far as like the lyrics go. And
in the way I remember all of 2020 rolling out, really every week was a new year. Like every week was very, very different. So 1 week it seemed the world was one way. The next week it seemed it was another way. Do you remember at what point you became excited about making the album?
So my first Zoom session, I brought in What the Stars See, the concept, and it ended up being the like first single I released off the album. And I think when I got the demo back, I learned to cut my own vocals, which was new for me. But getting that demo back and hearing what I set out to do coming back to me was when I got excited. It was like
interesting.
The first session. Yeah.
Just to step back then to the cutting your own vocals for the kids out there. That's recording them yourself without a professional engineer and without a studio and someone on the other side of the glass and stuff. And that's the way most people do it.
Yeah.
Because I'd say most people that make music are doing it in their rooms. So prior to that, you hadn't done that? You just been recording in studios?
Well, recording demos, I usually would like write the song with them. The one of the songwriters would throw together a little demo, maybe just an acoustic guitar to a metronome, and then I would sing into like whatever mic that some people had studios, some people just had like a microphone in a live room.
But you haven't been like a recording geek with a bunch of equipment around your place.
No way.
What did you do? How did you quote cut your own vocals?
I called my producer, not my producer from Thrive, but that I had used prior, Corey Crowder, and I was like, "How do I do this? I really like need to like step up my game." And he was like, "Here are the things that you need to buy. Here's the microphone that's like pretty standard SM58." And I was like, "Okay, great." And I YouTubed how to use Logic. Everybody recommended Logic.
Same here. I did the same thing. Yeah.
I just YouTubed it, and then and I still like don't know how to comp anything. I don't know how to tune anything. So I'll literally do takes, or I'll give like if it's like I need to do sections. I'll do like 4 verses, 4 choruses, every section.
And send them to someone with some perspective.
Yeah. Send them to someone who can make them pretty.
And these are vocals that you kept on the record?
No, these were just for demo's sake. And then I actually got to cut the vocals in my producer, Nick Wheeler's house. He had a great little nook, super vibey little spot. And it was great because I didn't have to rent out a studio and have a time set to go in. If I woke up and felt terrible, like vocally, I'd be like, let's not do it today.
When you went into his place, were you there with live musicians and stuff, or were they putting down stuff and you were, how did you piece this together in this era?
We went into the studio, an actual studio here in Nashville with the band for 2 days, and they cut 11 songs. And
great.
They were very similar to the demos, so there wasn't a ton of creativity there was a lot of creativity, but there wasn't a ton of writing parts.
You were prepared.
We were
that's
prepared.
Called pre-production. Yeah. I think that's the best way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. We had, and so, and then we did some overdubs. Nick's a great guitar player, and we had some organ. We had one of my friends do some organ, and and so when I was cutting vocals, the songs they weren't 100% finished, but there was like the bones were there for me to sing over.
Okay, so when you say the bones, what's left if you're recording 11 songs in a few days like that? That's the form and everything. Probably, of course, you can edit that around. But what's left? Just changing words or something?
No. So the guys in the studio would be like, "Let's do another take. Keep what I just did in there. Let me overdub some cool stuff to harmonize or whatever." And so when we went through and sifted through all the parts, some stuff we didn't keep, or some stuff we kept, or maybe we flew to a different part of the song. And so what I would do is I would go in with Nick and Karen Fairchild, my co-producer, and we would listen through, and I'd be like, okay, like dynamic stuff. Like, I feel like everything should drop out here. I feel like that part is just competitive with this other part. Let's mute that, whatever. And so when I would go in to record vocals, maybe that stuff wasn't fully sifted through yet. But just to get the vocal done and get the parts in there and see what was too competitive with my vocal, then we would sit and be like, okay, that doesn't work there. Let's let the vocal shine here. Let's, just kind of tweaking.
So you recorded, you tracked everything. I assume you sang with the band while you were tracking, at least have a scratch vocal? There
were some scratch vocals that we just flew from the demo, that we just soloed from the demo. And then there were a couple of scratch vocals I sang live with them in the studio because we didn't have the demo vocal stem.
Did anything from your SM58 at home times make it to the record?
There might have I think there was like some background vocals, not lead vocals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, can I ask a real crass question? If you don't answer it, that's totally fine. What was the budget for that record?
So the Orchard, I had them hop on board for distribution, and they had a great budget for me to pick from, but I had to be kind of careful because obviously you have the budget for the record, and then you have to make the record, and then you have promo, and then you have like.
So they don't cut these up. They don't say, I'm very old school. I think of the budget as being what is appropriated to spend on the record. And the reason I ask is because I find it amazing what artists have to deal with these days. We used to be given a healthy budget to go in the studio and make it. And now it's like you have to phone in all these favors from your friend, do half of it at home and stuff. And everyone does it that way. So I'm just kind of curious how much it costs to make a record that sounds as great as what you're doing. Like what's the price tag for actually doing this these days?
I mean, I'm giving you a rough estimate because I have the numbers actually somewhere. We just had a meeting about like how much we spent this year. I think it kind of came out around like 75. I want to say
75,000
between mixing, mastering, producer, co-producer, studio time. I brought in some background vocalists and musicians.
That's nothing.
Everything.
I mean, for kids at home, yours truly. Last producer I worked with spent $600,000 on the record. My first album was done for $3,000. I think it was $3,000. And then we spent $300,000 on videos.
See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's what's frustrating because you want, like, it's so funny. We cut so many corners with what we do because we're like, oh, we need content. We need this. And thankfully, I just, I worked with people that were like flexible. They knew I didn't have like a major label budget. So they were flexible, but I had to think about all that stuff that comes afterwards, which is so frustrating because you're like, I could have done this, I could have done that, but I'm saving it for Instagram, essentially. You're
saving it for the ads.
Yeah.
And then that's exactly, but it's not any different in a way than it used to be. In that as soon as label or everyone involved, not just the labels are awesome. I mean, whoever's involved, as soon as they know there's going to be some success, or they think there could be, they're suddenly willing to spend 7 times as much as what was spent on the record in order to make it win. And when we're making records in this era, because the way that you're describing you're making the record does sound. That's the reason I ask is because it sounds corner cutty.
Yeah,
it's like
definitely.
You are doing things in a corner very efficiently. What you may have done this. I don't know, but at some point, you were going on TV live all the time, worrying about whether or not you're going to be sick, pass out, have an acne attack, or sing a tune. You could pre-produce to the extent that you've done before, just like within an inch of its life prepared. Go into a studio with a little audience, they don't clap, and record maybe an EP in two sittings. Give it 2 nights. God. Just an idea. Because you could do it. You could actually pull it off. It would be cheaper.
Fun. Well, and it'd be cheaper, and there's just that energy you feed off of when people are present when you're singing. It's like, there's maybe it's that competitive nature of like, I want to impress these people and give it my all.
It could be. Or it could be you just simply want to communicate something, and you can tell that what you are saying is sinking in.
Yeah.
You're communicating,
Yeah, making them feel interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that
just
down.
An idea. We're going to take a question, and then I'm going to get you to give me an exercise. Do you know about this?
Yes.
Okay.
New week's resolution.
So it's the new week's resolution. You're going to give me an exercise. Okay. So let's take questions from the proverbial peanut gallery.
Okay. Sounds good.
Hi, Ben. It's Marnie from Adelaide, Australia.
Hey, Marnie.
They say Shakespeare wrote a few lazy plays during quarantine for the plague, and we all saw people perfecting their sourdough baking skills or writing books or music during this recent pandemic. But some of us were just trying to keep our heads above the water. Do you think the pandemic has been a creative time or a time for feeling guilty for not being creative enough?
Actually, the last part of that was really, really good, Marnie. Because we were just talking about that. Yeah, that's a good question for you. Because I was trying to get to the bottom of your motivation for bothering making a record in that time. I wasn't going to personally,
right?
But I did feel guilty about it. Was guilt for not doing something positive with your time part of your motivation?
No, it really wasn't. In fact, the guilt came in with exercise, eating healthy, mindfulness, all these things that people were posting about, starting a garden, like stuff that I was like, I felt so, I just wasn't motivated to do any of that. And I just wanted to veg out and write. But like the motivation behind the record was just like the hunger for just hunkering down and doing this kind of record. That excited me just in itself. The other stuff, and the guilt.
And she was mentioning, some people were just keeping their head above water. But the thing is to point out too is that your job is writing songs and making records.
Yeah.
You've worked hard at that. That's your job. Your job, part of it, touring, live performance, was taken away from you and your crew and your band and the venues you played at and all the promoters along the way that you probably didn't even think about until you started realizing that them and their kids are probably having a hard time.
Absolutely.
So I guess that's just the answer to Marnie a little bit is that, there was some people, I mean, imagine being a healthcare worker in an emergency room or IC or something like that. That's one world way over here. And that's one kind of holy shit. I don't even want a part of that. But also to point out that people in the creative business that's their job. And that's your job. And you actually managed to do it with an SM5758, which is a great mic. And
did its job.
And I guess you had a Yamaha piano back there, a bunch of guitar cases.
Had a good backdrop.
Your CMA product placement. Is that CMA? What does that say?
Well, I had a CMT. I have a CMT.
CMT. Sorry.
Sam my boyfriend has an CMT Artist of the Year award for the show Nashville he was on. So that's not mine, but I keep it back there because it looks cool.
Okay, have you got a new week's resolution exercise for us?
Yes, my new week's resolution is embodiment exercises. So every day, whatever feeling you're having, whether you're feeling sad, happy, small, big, embody, like literally use your body to create visibly what that feeling is like. So for instance,
like dance.
You can dance or you can like have no music and just, I don't know if you watched Ted Lasso, but there's a scene where a woman is like giving somebody a pep talk about going into a restaurant and getting the table that he wants because he's really timid and he's shy and the people at the restaurant were being mean to him. And she was telling him, before I walk into a room full of men that just think that they're better than me, before I walk in, I embody something larger than life. And she just puts her hands up like this and she just like makes her face like really intense and she embodies being larger than life. And it gives her the confidence to walk in that room larger than life. And so if you're feeling
small, you should ball down in a little corner.
Yep.
Interesting.
Or and you can use music. I don't use music because sometimes it makes me feel like I'm trying to be in a movie and I laugh at myself. So I don't do music and I just like do the feeling that I'm feeling. And then it's weird if you are sad and you do that movement, something about it, you're releasing what you're feeling and it will either go away or it'll make you think about why you're feeling that way and it'll kind of get you to get to the bottom of it, which is really therapeutic.
Well, I mean, I would go, so first of all, your exercise is once a day. Let's make it once a day. Well, do you have a time of day?
I like mornings.
Okay,
because you're
let's make it mornings. You're the
Yeah.
boss of us. Okay, every day in the morning,
Yeah.
take note of your mood, how you
Mhm.
are, how you feel, and embody it.
Yeah.
Show it physically. How
Yeah.
long is this exercise going to take a day?
Oh, like it could be a minute. It could be 5 minutes.
Okay.
It'd probably get weird
Doesn't
after
need to be
5
much.
minutes.
I think it would be weird after 5 minutes. I think it'd be weird after 30 seconds for me, but
Yeah,
I'll try
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
I'll try
maybe, you know what? We'll start at 30 seconds and then maybe it gets longer every day because you get more comfortable doing it. Who knows? It's up to you, but whatever your comfort
Awesome.
level is. Yeah.
What do you have any recommendations on? Do you think we'll all start to feel like, no, I made that shape yesterday?
Mm-hmm. I think that's okay. I think because
Okay.
if you have that thought and you're like, I did this yesterday, then you also should just dig into that and be like, why am I continuing to feel this feeling? And you'll get somewhere with that. So if there's a pattern, that's a good thing that you're
That
doing
is a very
that.
songwritery exercise, and I think that's a songwritery exercise because creating a song, it has to have an honest flow to it.
Yeah.
You can't get loud unless there's been an idea of being soft. You can't be happy unless there's been an idea of being sad, and vice versa. And it's interesting because bringing up Ted Lasso, it was actually during the sing-off years
Mhm.
time that Jason Sudeikis, who I've known since I think he was 18 years old, told
Oh.
me that I was not acknowledging on the show when it sucked and that I should. He's like, you're trying to save these moments from being down. He's like, you're not going to save those. Acknowledge that they're down, live them as they're down, get small, like that's embodiment. Go ahead and get small because unless everyone understands that, unless we acknowledge that, there is no way to bring it up and
There's
to
no
come
upper.
up from there.
Yeah.
There's no up because you haven't acknowledged it. So I think that's the brilliance of that exercise.
Yay.
Nice.
I'm glad you approve.
Okay, so I think that was good.
That was
Thanks
awesome.
for
I
taking
love this
time to.
conversation.
And you're actually the first guest on the show who's actually had video lightning bugs all over your video, and it's just the weirdest.
Damn it.
It's
I don't
not
know
a-
if I want that statistic.
You're the only one. They're like kind of like these little floaters, like flying around.
It's dust. It's called I need to clean this room.
It's dust. Okay.
Probably, I would think. I don't know what those
Call
are.
this when Cassadee brings the dust.
Bring the dust.
Hi, if you're enjoying listening to Lightning Bugs, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps a lot. Thank you so much for watching Lightning Bugs on YouTube. Check out more episodes and subscribe if you have not already. You can also listen to Lightning Bugs wherever podcasts may be found.